We'll call this episode Nosh Schmooze.
Trying to get that photo right of you and me at the climate thing in
Ariel. And we're live on Facebook. And I'm going to go ahead and find us here so that I can feed the comments to you so you don't have to worry about that.
Sending you the photo.
All right, here we are. All right, friends. It's Nosh Schmooze, where we talk about cool stuff concerning the Jews and everybody else. Welcome everyone to Nosh Schmooze on our new day of Mondays. I am very happy to have with me two very special guests today. And we're going to be talking about the healing power of trees with activists Ray Abalea and Ariel Vegosen. And as always, if you have questions or comments for my guests, please leave them in the comments section if you're watching on Facebook, and I will field your questions to them. But first, a bit about my guests. Ray Abalea is a social change strategist, community organizer, activist, writer, and advocate for human rights, environmental justice, and community wellness. She was co-director and national organizer of Code Pink, Women for Peace, for 8 years, fighting the good fight against the US wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. She's an active member of Jewish Voice for Peace and co-founded the youth wing of the organization. Her creative work with the anti-war and environmental justice movements has led her to pop up in Congress, speaking truth to politicians on the daily, run an activist house in DC, take the bullhorn at marches, compose innumerable song parodies and flash mobs, share some hearty sound bites with the media, lead delegations to the Middle East, learn a little HTML, create activist training camps, and ruckus-raising skill shares, and put her body on the line for justice. She's a contributing author to Beautiful Trouble and Beyond Tribal Loyalties, and she's based in San Francisco. Professional gender inclusivity trainer, workshop facilitator, writer, educator, mentor, performance artist, and consultant Ariel Vegosen is the founder of Gender Illumination and Shine Diversity, and for 18 years has facilitated trainings, workshops, and retreats for organizations, corporations, nonprofits, schools, communities, and faith-based groups. This work has taken Ariel all over the US and internationally. Ariel has facilitated gender inclusivity trainings for major tech companies as well as major policy institutes. Ariel is an ordained Hebrew priestess and ritualist. Along with gender justice, Ariel's work focuses on the intersectionality, commitment to working from an anti-oppression lens and creating communities across diverse cultural backgrounds. Ariel loves to play with pronouns, bring joy into all aspects of life, and creatively spark conversations and connections. Ariel is available for workshops, performing, teaching, coaching, and speaking engagements. Welcome both of you to Nosh Schmooze. And I just want to say, I first met both of you through Wilderness Torah, which is an earth-based Jewish community. And you both do so many things in the world. But I know that, part of the big picture of what you do is being caretakers for the planet and activists for the planet. And I know there's this incredible story that happened around Tu B'Shvat, which happened this past week. But your story began a couple years ago. Ariel, I'm wondering if you can walk us through what happened.
Yeah, I would love to do that. And I just want to say it's so exciting to be with both of you on this call. It's very special. Ray and I have a long history together as best friends and life partners and collaborators and justice workers. And it's awesome to be with you as well, Rachel, because we've been with you for so many important moments. I was just thinking about the moment of when I was there to witness your engagement to your partner. And so I just wanted to acknowledge that these connections are really powerful and are intimate and are friends and our deep family. So I just wanted to share that as well with the people watching this so they can get like the full perspective of, because both what Ray and I are going to share today, you're going to see that we're interwoven in each other's activism and projects. And so the specific story around this one specific tree in Oakland, California, that sparked a world of ritual that I want to share with you all today, that really sparked multiple rituals spanning from Yom Kippur all the way to Tu B'Shvat, all the way back to another Yom Kippur. So like a full year cycle. So what happened going all the way back into 2019 when we were allowed to easily be together without masks? It almost feels like a time before time, but there we were in 2019, right around that time frame in between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. And I was with a group of amazing earth-based Jewish spiritual people in Oakland, California, people from Kohenet, people from people who identify as Jewish and witchy, and people from all aspects of Jewish life were together to really honor this time from Rosh Hashanah to Yom Kippur and to do Tashlik, which is the casting off, the casting away of things that no longer serve. And so we went down to this very specific location in Oakland in Diamond Park. And we were walking as a group, really searching to find what is the best location to do this ritual. And we were thinking from a place of inclusivity because we had people of all different backgrounds and abilities in the group, and we didn't want to walk too far into the woods. We really wanted to stay close enough where we can all get to the water with ease and grace, no matter what our ability is, no matter what our age range is, no matter just being able to get there easily. It was kind of like our goal. And so we had people searching, like going up in the group and like searching ahead to see if there was a spot. People were kind of like going back and trying to figure it out. And finally, we came to this amazing body of water, running water, where everybody could easily reach it without having to like bend all the way down or harm yourself in any way. It was like the perfect location. And we start to do this ritual and we're all like in our own deep thoughts and prayers. And we had beautiful rose petals that we were casting off that had been with us from a prior ritual, and we were casting them into the water. And I look up and I see a swastika on a tree. And I'm thinking to myself, what is the symbolism? What are the chances that we'd be in the woods in a park and someone would have carved a giant swastika onto a tree while a bunch of Jewish people are casting off what no longer serves them, casting off any ways that we have harmed society, begging for forgiveness. And we look up to see the symbol of what has harmed our community so deeply, the wound that we carry so strongly, our ancestral trauma for so many of us. And at first I thought to myself, I don't want to ruin this moment. Do I share with others? People don't seem to notice the tree. Do I tell other people what's happening? Or do I just stay in this for myself and try to process what this means? But I know my work as a priestess, as a Kohenet priestess, is really about building community. So I knew I couldn't just hold this to myself. So I tried to just tell one person next to me to kind of frame this together. But because I have a very loud voice, it's very hard for me to just tell one person next to me. So of course, everyone heard right away and looked up and saw the swastika, and it instilled fear, panic, anxiety, all different kinds of thoughts. And we immediately stopped the ritual that we were doing and we gathered together in a circle to talk about our own ancestors. Some of us had direct people who suffered in the Holocaust, people who died in the camps, or people that survived. And some people had stories of ancestors that had fled to the woods and survived in the woods. So it felt very intense to be in the woods in a place that we felt safe and comfortable, and suddenly to be jarred out of that safety and comfort. But we also wanted to connect that to what so many people are experiencing in the US, especially, right? We wanted to connect this moment of our feeling of lack of safety, our feeling of anxiety. We wanted to also connect that to what do people of color face every single day in the United States? What about, all different groups, marginalized people, LGBTQ people? We started making connections. A lot of us were, people of color in that group, in that circle, are LGBTQ members in that circle. So the stories became a mixture of what did our ancestors go through and what are we going through today? And what does it mean to see this symbol in the woods? So that piece of the story ends there. And you flash all the way forward to another moment in time, which is Martin Luther King Day. And I attend this incredibly powerful ritual, which was facilitated by Led to Life, which is an amazing organization that takes actual weapons, takes actual guns, and melts them down in a ritual and creates actual tools to shovel, like shovels and plows, right? When you think about that quote from the Torah, right, of like taking your weapons and turning them into plowshares, this organization is actually doing that. They are taking weapons, melting them down in immense heat and creating shovels, and then working with the families of people that have lost sons or daughters to gun violence, and or any child of any gender to gun violence, and literally planting trees, right? Ritually planting trees with these shovels. And so on Martin Luther King Day, they did a very special ritual that invited the whole community. People of all backgrounds came together at Oscar Grant Plaza in Oakland to have mothers who had lost their children to gun violence come and bring guns and melt them in this amazing ritual where we're singing and chanting. And there was young people doing circus performances and dance and an altar. And they brought us all together to melt these guns down and create a star constellation of the actual stars in the sky the night that Oscar Grant was killed by police officers. So this is the star constellation. We're going to put up right now the image of that star, because what happens next is that that star, one of the stars from that powerful ritual that you see right there, that star then is gifted to the Jewish community to do a healing ritual on the day of the trees, on Tu B'Shvat, to do a healing ritual with myself and Ray and Arthur Waskow and other amazing Jewish educators and facilitators and witches and community members and priestesses. We take that exact star and we bring it to the tree on this holiday in ritual with prayer, and we put that specific star over the swastika, connecting us to the MLK Day ritual, connecting us all the way back to the original Tashlich service that we did. So that piece of the story is really powerful and beautiful. That moment of healing, that moment of transformation, of actually placing this powerful star over the swastika, healing the tree, healing ourselves, connecting us as one community, working for liberation to end oppression. And the next piece of the story that I want to share is this Tashlich in 2020, this past Tashlich, while we are suffering in this pandemic and having such a hard time coming together, I was able to bring a minion of just 10 people to social distance at that exact same tree. We spanned out, we brought roses once again, and we did a beautiful, powerful Tashlich service. And what I want to say about that service is it was a multi-faith service. So the 10 people that showed up, there was people from all walks of life, of all backgrounds. There was Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people, Hindu people that came to that service. The 10 people actually were really diverse. And it was very powerful to bring this multi-faith aspect into that Tashlich service. And that's what you're looking at there, is people, once again, casting off what no longer serves and being present with that same tree and that same location. And so now we're building a land-based connection, right? So that tree and that specific land and that specific park, we've now come 3 times to do ritual there. And I plan again, you know, when this coming 2021 Tashlich, we will be at that same tree, and hopefully it'll be a time frame where we no longer have to mask up and be so afraid. But even if we do, we can see that, you know, there is a way to do it. There is a way to come together outdoors with masks and be together in deep ritual. So that's that story. And that story, you know, connects with so many other tree rituals. I know Ray's going to have the opportunity to share other tree rituals that we've done together, but that is the story of that specific tree and that specific land and what's possible.
I love that out of, you know, some extreme hate and you know, pain, you were able to bring communities together that have felt ostracized, that have felt pain, and do healing around that together. And that you know, Jewish ritual was used for everybody universally to feel closer to each other and nature and that connection. It's wow. I'm so grateful that that was happening and that you both helped facilitate that.
I want to honor one other person that really helped facilitate, which is Suzela from the Jewish Project. She's an amazing activist and out in the Bay Area. And I just want to really honor her because her vision really was, she was there at the first, that first Tashlik, and she really had the vision to figure out what does it mean to heal the tree and what does it mean to heal our souls and what does it mean to do this work together. So I want to honor her for bringing that vision into this.
Thank you, Suzela. Wow. And speaking about ritual and healing and trees, Ray, I want to invite you to tell us about Climate Ribbon and what is that?
Well, first of all, I want to echo Ariel's words about how powerful it is to be here in this space of weaving in connections of friendship and activist community, professional work, and larger Jewish family as well. And it's powerful to hear, Ariel, your telling of this story of how one ritual can turn to another and another, and all of a sudden there's a kind of a deepening intimate relationship with that land, which I believe is the land of the Wichinoloni peoples in the East Bay, and how we tend to the land and the peoples of the land and show up well in this time of multiple crises intersecting. One of those crises, as we know, is climate chaos. And about 6 years ago, there was a group of us artists, activists who came together asking ourselves how we could create a space for grief, both the actual grief happening at the massive and accelerated loss and destruction of the natural and human world because of climate chaos, and the what we call prefigurative grief, the grief of what we stand to lose in the future. And we looked at many different cultures who have rituals around land honoring and grief and prayer and hope. One that really inspired us was looking back at the AIDS memorial quilt, that project of people creating quilt squares to remember a loved one who had died of the AIDS epidemic, and then stitching all those stories, all those lives together, right? And some of us may remember those pictures of the giant blanketed Capitol grounds of that quilt. And we thought, how do each of our individual stories come together to make something larger than life? It's so easy to feel kind of hopeless or overwhelmed when we think about climate chaos. It feels like this huge thing out there. And it's also easy to feel isolated for those of us who aren't maybe in a big city where a lot of people are organizing around this and question what to do. And so that's how we landed on this idea of creating what we call the Climate Ribbon. And we ask people to really take into the heart and into a quiet, kind of meditative, contemplative place the question, what do you love and hope never to lose to climate chaos? And to really identify something specific and personal and write it on a ribbon. And I'd like to pivot to sharing with you a video of that project's very first event, which was as the art finale of the People's Climate March in 2014. And we'll watch just a couple minutes of this short video to really get a feel for how this project was seeded and how we created a standing grove of trees, if you will, in the middle of New York City on this day that was at the time the biggest action on climate change in the US while the UN was meeting to talk about climate change.
And Ray, while you're getting that set up, I did post that question in the comments on Facebook and a link to the climateribbon.org URL. What do you love and hope to never lose to climate chaos? Viewers, feel free to answer that question.
Great, here we go.
When it comes to climate change, everything is at stake for us. Everything we love is on the line.
The scale of devastation is so vast. We know the facts. We can do some of the math. Our brain can compute it, but our heart has a real hard time doing it.
In order to have the kind of global, rapid shift that we need to make in order to preserve the human species and most of life on Earth as we know it, we need to open our hearts and have some way to emotionally deal with the tremendous loss that is at stake.
We haven't been willing to address the emotional component of this issue. And it seemed very necessary to open up a space for people to start to experience and process the emotional barriers that were holding them back from taking action.
So we asked everyone to write on a ribbon a very simple but very profound question, which was, what do I love and hope to never lose to climate chaos? Packages came in from all over the place. Had allies with large email lists and put out an email saying, add your voice to the largest climate march in history. Our volunteers will write what you cherish, what you love and hope to never lose to climate change on a ribbon and hang it on the tree.
Having a moment to find my own self, what was important to me and how climate change would affect me or has affected me, because I know it for other people's experiences. So to get it for myself was super helpful to feel it and not just feel overwhelmed by the immensity of this terror.
When people are given...
So I'm going to pause right there, and you get a feel for this project and how it began, and why, and to bring up a discussion of, why is it important that we actually feel the impact of these things that we're working on in our hearts and our communities. That was the opening event of the Climate Ribbon. It's since traveled on to Paris, to the UN Climate Summit, where we created a huge tree that Ariel and I both were part of creating at the UN summit when the Paris Agreement was launched. This is a small tree that we built inside of the UN, and then we had a really large tree that you could walk through the trunk of it in a bigger venue. And the project has traveled all over the world, and it's a useful tool for communities who are looking to bring the issue home, and also to create a kind of a tapestry of commitments. We have evolved the project to not only ask people the question, what do you love and hope never to lose to climate chaos, but to also ask people to flip the ribbon over and write a commitment that they're making to a more just and renewable future. And we believe that when people then go, they tie the ribbon to the tree and then they take home somebody else's ribbon. So you have this kind of physical artifact that in the digital era, it feels sort of special to have something in somebody else's handwriting, and you become the custodian, the guardian of what that person holds sacred. And you make a vow that that person's commitment to action strengthens your own resolve to your own commitment to action. So it can be profound in a group of strangers, like at the UN with thousands of people milling around. And it can also be really powerful accountability and support tool in a community where everybody already knows each other, and the person whose ribbon you're carrying, whose ribbon you're tying to your keychain, or putting on the bathroom counter where you brush your teeth, or putting on your altar, this kind of everyday talisman to remind us that we need to be taking action every day. I'm here today on the California coast, and I thought it was appropriate to join this conversation with the trees behind me. As many of you know, out here in California, there's been devastating wildfires over the past months, and we're now facing massive rainstorms. That is wonderful. We need the rain, but they're also causing incredible mudslides and tearing apart the hillsides because there aren't trees to hold that land in place. And we're feeling it in real time right now. There's a New York Times reporter who asked the writer Terry Tempest Williams, amidst the raging fires in the West, to write an obituary to the land. And she said, she took the request really to heart, and she wrote this absolutely heartbreaking, but also beautiful and very resilient piece and I'm just going to read a couple lines of it. She writes, "How can we hold this grief without holding each other? To bear witness to this moment of undoing is to find the strength and spiritual will to meet the dark and smoldering landscapes where we live. We can cry. Our tears will fall like rain in the desert and wash off our skins of ash, so our pores can breathe, so our bodies can breathe back the lives that we have taken for granted." And she says the future of our species will be decided here, not by facts, but by love and loss. So that's really our raison d'etre of this project is to say, let's focus on what actually shifts people into action, you know, heart, emotion, story sharing, connection, community building. And I will just mention on a very practical note that I think this is one project that's easy to do in times of pandemic. It's an outdoor project. It's revolving around a tree. It's something people can create as a placeholder for grief and hope on the grounds of a congregational space or in a neighborhood or on the fence posts. The way that we put mezuzot on our house, we can tie ribbons on our fence posts. Just a thought for all of y'all out here who are tuning in, I believe from a place that's been really experiencing also a lot of real intense climate chaos and storm.
Yeah, I was thinking about that while you're talking, Ray, that, you know, you've chosen to remain in California amidst all this climate chaos that you're experiencing. You know, it's all around you, and to be a steward, you know, of peace and resilience for the planet. And I find myself like questioning, you know, with sea level rise, like, what do we do? Where do we go? Do we stay? Do we, you know, what happens? And it's very real. Yeah, it's something that a lot of the Jewish community in South Florida is gathering around to talk about. And actually, one of my guests further on in a few weeks is going to talk about sea level rise in South Florida and around the world. And just to mention that something he spoke about in the Big Bold Jewish Climate Fest session yesterday is that 75% of Jewish communities in the country live in the coast, like in counties that are 5 miles within the ocean. And so it affects everyone, obviously, and it impacts the Jewish community as well. Ray, you mentioned something earlier about just the intersection of these interfaith and Jewish and communities and healing of the planet, and, you know, the similarities between these two rituals that you've done. And I'm wondering if you both could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, I think what's interesting in both of these rituals is that there's a space created for grief. And I know when I was a young organizer, there was this real taking to heart of Joe Hill's "Don't mourn, organize." And, you know, get out there, be in action. We don't have time for feeling our feelings. And I think my attitude toward organizing has really shifted over the years, really acknowledging the importance of grief. And it doesn't feel like a newsflash for any of us who have lived through the past year and the immense amount of death in this country from the pandemic, the mismanagement of healthcare, the shooting of young Black and brown bodies in the streets, and murder of people in our communities. I mean, it's just very evident that we need more space for grief. And then also the question of how do we hold space for grief, but also create space for hope and resilience? And I love what you shared, Ariel, about the crafting of that sacred amulet that went on top of the swastika and all the symbolism behind that, and you know, uplifting the Lead to Life organization and their ritual process and what it means to create something that's of, by, and for the community that it's serving.
Yeah, I just want to build on what you're saying about that Lead to Life ritual, because another aspect of that ritual that was so powerful is that it was both the moms who had lost their children to gun violence, but also in attendance at their ritual was people who had done gun violence. So formerly incarcerated humans that had participated in that and had transformed themselves, had come out of that experience, and now are working in Oakland to, you know, reshape culture and shift and also acknowledge the immense police state and police brutality that especially Black and brown bodies are faced with on the daily. And so the ritual that we did with Lead to Life really took into account so many different aspects of community. And one thing that felt really powerful to me about that ritual was the radical inclusion of it. Everybody felt welcome there. Like we all felt connected and in it, and that all of our full selves were welcome to be there. And so when we did the Tu B'Shvat healing ritual, we wanted that same element to be with us, right? That all community members were welcome. This was not just about healing Jewish community, not just about covering up a swastika, but really about uniting all communities, right? Having this specific star that came from the Oscar Grant Plaza ritual, and having all the communities connected together, welcoming all people to help us heal this tree, to help us heal ourselves, to recognize that all of our liberation is bound up within each other. That's so important and so powerful. And when I think about the climate ribbon, it's a ritual for all people, right? It's rooted in the idea, the faith is actually that we have faith in each other, right? I'm taking your ribbon and you have to have faith in me that I'm going to carry this vision forward, that I'm actually going to do the work of change, that I'm trusting you to do the work of change, right? So, and a lot of what I think Judaism teaches is that we actually have to do this work. Like when I think about Yom Kippur, it's not enough to just ask a higher power or to ask Goddess for forgiveness, right? It's that you actually have to ask each other for forgiveness. You actually have to do this work of reconciliation as a community. So that piece to me of trust in each other is popping up in both of the rituals that we've been organizing.
Absolutely. And I do, in the spirit of community, want to share some of the comments here. So Olivia Kastner says water is one of the things that she holds sacred. And Jyoti says close to grief rituals. Hi, Jyoti. Oh, I meant to say yes to grief rituals. And also Cheryl Zaporkin says, I read the book, The Overstory, which is about trees, and found it very interesting and wants to know if we're familiar with The Overstory. Cool. And Ray, thank you for sharing the obituary of the land. That's very powerful words. So yeah, I feel like there's so much more work to be done here with the healing power of nature and connecting us all as human beings, and you know, being able to just all be on the same team together. Wouldn't that be nice? So in that vein, Ariel, I know that you have some new projects that you're working on with Gender Illumination. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, thank you so much for asking. So Gender Illumination is running two really amazing programs that I want everyone to know about. The first one is for people, any adult person over the age of 18 that identifies as trans, genderqueer, non-binary, gender questioning, gender non-conforming. We are running an amazing mentorship program, and applications are open right now. So if people are interested, especially in being a mentee, we have all of our mentors. We've already done the application for the mentors, and now we are seeking people that want to be mentees. You can check it out at genderillumination.com/mentorship. And what this program really offers is one-on-one mentoring. It also offers a workshop series that focuses on decolonizing gender, working together to end racism. It focuses on leadership, giving people a sense of community, working in affinity and support groups. And this is our second version of this online, right? So previously, before the pandemic, we were doing everything in person. And now Gender Illumination is really proud to say that we have expanded our programs during the pandemic. We are welcoming in people from all across the United States. We even have a few people from Canada. So we've really grown in what is possible because of the pandemic, because everything is happening on Zoom now. So we're able to partner people across the country. We're able to increase the amount of people from different locations. And so it's been very exciting. We had our first cohort online that was very successful, and we're really excited to be welcoming in our second cohort. We also are running an amazing Black Lives Matter grant program. And this is a program specifically to help and support some of the most marginalized people in our country, which are Black, trans, non-binary, genderqueer, non-conforming people. And we really see that when we say Black Lives Matter, we feel like it's not just enough to say that or to be in the streets, but that our activism really needs to be in practice, right? And that we need to show up for our fellow community members, for our friends, for our family members, for our loved ones. And we're noticing that people are really struggling with just getting basic necessities right now: food, housing, being able to pay your medical bills, being able to survive in this really intense climate and in this intense situation of living through the pandemics. And what's happening is that everyone is experiencing the trauma of the pandemic, but Black people are also experiencing the ongoing trauma that has been going for so long of racism, and the ongoing trauma of seeing the real harm that Black people are experiencing, the violence, the killings. And this is our opportunity as Gender Illumination to focus on our friends and our loved ones who are Black, who are trans, who are non-binary, and create this Black Lives Matter grant program where people who are the most in need can apply for funding and get direct, immediate resource to go towards their housing, their food, their medical bills. And this program has already been doing so fabulous. We've already been able to help 8 people immediately with the funding that we have for this grant program. And at this point, we're really seeking more funding for this program. So we've already been able to help a group of people, and we really want to continue this program. And if you look on our website, there's ways to donate specifically to the Black Lives Matter grant program so that we can make this program bigger and reach more people. And we know that part of what I love about Judaism has always been this piece of tzedakah and this piece of giving and this piece of showing up in real community. And so if you are watching this today and you have the ability or you have the resource, it would be awesome for you all to donate to this Black Lives Matter Gender Illumination grant program. And you could do it on our website, genderillumination.com.
And I did go ahead and share the link to both the that grant program and the mentorship program, so folks can get involved.
Thank you.
Well, I just, I'm so grateful to have you both here. Ariel, you were like one of my first guests on this program almost a year ago for Pride Month. And it's great to have you back. And Ray, thank you so much for joining us. This has truly been a gift, and I know that all of our viewers really got something out of this. And I hope that more communities can connect in this way, start a climate ribbon tree in their community and take action and just promote more healing. So thank you both for being activists in the world for peace and for our planet. And we need you both, and we need more people to follow your lead. Thank you everybody for joining us today and for watching, and we'll see you next week. We're going to be talking about kosher cocktails in a can.